Coming up, we're nominating Twister, Ride It Out for the Universal Hall of Fame. After we're done discussing Loews' Sapphire Falls Resort, Islands of Adventure, and most importantly, Sharknado 3, Oh Hell No. Live from the Bob Varley studio, this is the Diz Unplugged Universal Edition. This is episode 50 of the Diz Unplugged Universal Edition. The Diz Unplugged Universal Edition is brought to you by Dreams Unlimited Travel, experts at helping you plan the perfect universal vacation. Visit them on the web at www.dreamsunlimitedtravel.com. Hey everyone, and welcome to a milestone of an episode. If I do say so myself, 50. Whoever thought we would get here, I didn't.
Wow.
A couple people might have did. That's really terrible English. Mm-hmm. But we made it. We defied the odds. Phil Collins would be really proud of us if he knew any of us. And so we're here. And I am Craig Williams, the host, as always. And joined with me is Rhino Clavin.
Hello.
And then also Jenny Lynn Nup.
Hey, everybody.
And then back on the controls, returning from sunny California, producer Dustin West.
I'm just happy to be here.
Cool. Okay.
It's crossing over.
It's crossing over. That's what we call a crossover episode.
I'm going to tell you right now,
Yeah?
your inflection on the way you said Sharknado was not acceptable to me.
Sharknado?
No, it needs to be Sharknado. Oh, hell no! You got to have a little swivel in there.
I heard it.
Hell no.
I heard it in my head, too.
Yeah, because you were like, Sharknado 3. Oh, hell no.
Yeah, that sounded like enthusiastic to me. At least in my head. That's how it really was coming out.
That's not how it came out to the rest of the world.
Next time you say it, I want that.
I don't think the rest of the world doesn't get to decide how it comes out. I decide how it comes out.
Okay.
I think that's what I meant to say.
Okay.
But yeah, so we have a huge 50th episode for you. Lots of stuff coming up. I mentioned some right at the top of the show. I mentioned we're talking about Sapphire Falls. Got information about that. Islands of Adventure. Let me explain. They won an award. Not award. An award.
They won
an award.
An award, yeah.
I was going to say they won a award. What kind of award?
They won an award. And then, of course, Sharknado 3, as we've already been going over with. Before we get to that in the buzz, though, I need to do one correction from last week. I probably don't need to do it, but I'm making the executive decision on this one. So last week we did our NBA City tribute, which I think was actually very popular, and in my opinion, it was popular. People seemed to be very responsive to it, so I hope everyone did enjoy that. But one of the things we talked about real briefly before we talked about NBA City was the NBC Media Center, and Alicia Stella wrote in on YouTube and said that the new NBC Media Center is more high-tech than the last preview centers that they've had at the parks. In this one, they're actually going to measure your biometrics while you're sitting there and watching instead of just doing the buttons. So they're going to measure your heart rate, your skin moisture, your eye movement, and more. She believes it's kind of creepy, but you're more honest than the buttons you press. And I've got to admit, it is more creepy, but...
That show would not be on the air if this was how they took it originally when we watched The Blind Spot.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. No.
Sorry, Jamie Alexander.
Blind Spot should not be on television coming this fall. It will be on television this fall, regardless. But no, I think it's great that the new media center is doing this, so that they're putting you through there. I can't imagine what the process is of getting signed up, and like, is it going to be like Clockwork Orange, where they open up your eyelids and are putting drops in all the time? Did that reference go with you, JL?
No,
that's fine.
I don't think she'll like that movie.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's a movie, and I mean, you've probably seen it spoofed in a bunch of other TV shows and stuff, so don't worry if you don't know that much about it, but I can't help you beyond that.
I'm worried about how sweaty people are, like, attaching those machines to the sweaty people. I'm one of those sweaty people. I just don't, like, I hope that, I'm assuming, they're always sanitary.
I was going to say, the whole thing sounds unsanitary.
I think it should only be open on select days whenever the temperature does not get above 60 degrees. Because...
It's basically no days.
Well, I mean, I'm looking at, like, well, you know... 70 degrees. Some people sweat in that kind of weather, some don't. But let's just be fair, distinct, and say 70 degrees or 60 degrees, sorry. And that's the cutoff, because unless you're wearing a winter jacket walking around in 60-degree weather, you should not be sweating. So,
all right, so that gives them December and January.
yeah. It does. Well, and sometimes February. We tend to have late winters that really pop up in January and February. But that is the correction and omission. Well, not the omission, just the correction that I wanted to do on the start of this show. And before we get rolling, does anyone have any other type of housekeeping items?
Nope.
No?
I don't think so.
I really hate that I always have to pull that segment.
The response to everything in this episode should be, "Oh, hell no." If it's the name of the thing we're talking about, I can say it. So that's
I don't know. We'll have to talk with the censor group about that one. But
it's gonna be a lot of beeping for the edited episode later.
beep 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 beep. So with that, let's move on to the buzz. What's buzz 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 buzz?
I just usually do the bzzz.
Okay, well,
The Ruby Rod from Fifth Element. That's what I'm always doing. Bzzz.
okay, fantastic. So,
Okay. Nobody?
first item on the buzz. Loews Sapphire Falls Resort officially has an opening date. It is set to open July 14th, 2016.
Yay.
The year of 2016. Of the dragon. Sure, why not? Someone wants to correct us later, I'll read it off next week. That'll be your moment of fame. So, a couple days ago, that would have been on Tuesday, actually. This is on Thursday. They announced the opening date for Loews Sapphire Falls, as well as the fact that you can now book it, which is a really big deal. A really big deal for people who want to book a hotel room for that time period. So we talked about Loews Sapphire Falls on the show already before. It is the newest, the fifth Caribbean themed, well, not the fifth Caribbean themed resort at Universal, but the fifth resort that happens to be Caribbean themed. Caribbean, however you want to call it. It's going to be an awesome 1,000-room hotel with 83 suites, a whole bunch of extra convention space being added, a giant pool area, beautiful lobby bar, all this, that, and the rest.
Can't keep up with you.
No, we're going to go through it then. I'm just giving the whole brief overview, and then we are going to go through a little bit of the details that were released. But I want to talk about first the fact that I said it's moderate priced. So what's that mean? It means, well, first off, you don't get the unlimited express passes that you would get at the 3 deluxe hotels that are on property. You also get to feel like you're one up from Cabana Bay because you're not in the value. So there's that. But what does that mean in terms of pricing? Well, Universal released some of their pricing based on 7 and 4 night stays, just to give some examples. And for value seasons, so not peak seasons, meaning September, February, time periods like that, rates for like a 7-night stay are going to start at $119 per night for each night, and then for a 4-night stay it would start at about $143 per night for that entire stay. Not for the entire, each night would cost $143. So I didn't do the math on what that adds up to be. It's kind of my bad. Trying to do the math in my head. So 700 plus 20 times 7 is
2016
14, so it would be $840 for 7-night stay, and I'm not bothering doing the other one. So let's talk about summer season rates, because that's when people like to vacation.
It's the monkey, by the way, next year.
So you could take the time to look up what freaking Chinese year we would be in, but you couldn't pull out a freaking calculator.
Well, I was like, you started saying the numbers, but I found the monkey thing, so I was more excited about the monkey.
Monkey.
Quit playing with the monkey year and get on track. Summer season rates, the important time of year, start at $176 per night for a 7-night stay, or $206 per night for a 4-night stay. And
I have the total for your 1-week stay.
Summer?
The summer rate.
Yeah? What is it?
$1,232 for the 7-day.
Okay, based on double occupancy and all that good jazz. So, a friend of the show and in life on Twitter and all this other stuff, Facebook for me, Brandon Kremens, he priced out some of the rates on his Twitter page just to give people an idea. And for like a one-night stay in the summer, just booking a random night in the summer, it was running about $229, and for a weekend it was $249. And then he also looked in September for a one-night stay, and that clocked in at $179. So is it definitely more expensive, but still, thank God it's not near the prices as some of the deluxe whenever they're at their busiest. But excuse me, that was a really awful time to take a sip of water right in the middle of the sentence. But I felt like I needed it, and now I do feel better about myself. So that's kind of what you're looking at with the rates on this hotel. Let's get into the actual hotel itself. So in the past, we showed pictures of some of the concept art, including the lobby, which nothing's really changed as far as that and what they're still showing. Same one. Also, we did show you the picture of the lobby bar that was dark and swanky, and we kind of described what it was going to be. And they finally said what it will be. It's going to be the Strong Water. Oh, God. I need to go back to school, don't I? The Strong Water Tavern. And so what the Strong Water...
I feel like you're going to start doing that. Why don't we walk about it later? Like W's are going to be everywhere now.
Water. Say it
Strong
with
ladder
me.
water? What are you saying?
Water.
I don't know why I'm trying to talk so fast. The Strong Water Tavern is being considered a destination lobby lounge that will serve tapas-style menu for lunch and dinner. And apparently there will also be daily rum tastings for those who are of age.
Tapas.
Tapas. So for those of you who don't know what a tapas is, it's just like small appetizers that if you eat enough of them, or if you're like...
I love tapas.
If you're not fat like myself, then you can probably make a meal out of it.
Before you just said that.
I remember
the options.
I remember my brother's, an old girlfriend of my brother's worked at a tapas bar, and he told my dad, like, my dad's like, what does she do? Oh, she works at a tapas bar. Oh, doesn't she have any respect for herself? Not topless. Tapas.
Yes, T-A-P-A-S. So that's one of the things. Also, we mentioned before they announced that there would be a full-service restaurant, something that isn't found at the Value Resort Cabana Bay. That only has that nice quick service one. But at Sapphire Falls, they are going to have the full-service restaurant that is called Amatista Cookhouse. So Amatista Cookhouse it's a very blue restaurant that will have great views overlooking the lagoon, whether you're sitting inside or out on the outdoor patio that they'll be offering. And
looks like you might be able to see a little bit of City Walk from that angle. I don't know. Or one of the other hotels or something.
You know what? I will play dumb to all this, and I hope someone else can respond. Like, looking at the initial map that they put out, looking overhead, it doesn't look like the lagoon's going to be facing that side.
Okay.
But then again, I'm probably wrong and just read the map backwards. But I don't think the views of the lagoon are going to be extremely great, but I mean, that might change.
This coming from the guy who thought you're
taking it from me.
The blue part was land.
All those cartography lessons are paying off.
Fantastic. So Amatista Cookhouse will be open for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. So that's your all-day one. And then there's also going to be a little more. The Drum Club Canteen is the poolside bar and grill. So it's like every other pool bar. They'll serve food and then some specialty cocktails.
If it's like the other Universal pool bars, it should be pretty good.
Yeah, I expect it to be very good. But we'll see whenever it's out. And then their quick service marketplace will be the New Dutch Trading Company. The New Dutch Trading Company. And
you just said that twice.
The New Dutch Trading Company. So I know everyone's probably thinking now, what are these rooms going to look like?
What are they going to look like?
What are they going to look like? Yeah. Well, I would say they feel like a getaway.
Like a bank heist? Oh no, okay, there's the picture.
No, not like a getaway, like a
Like a
Like
Gwen
not-
Stefani and Akon song?
not a castaway getaway, but just like a getaway. So if you're going to the Caribbean getaway, you're going to want a lot of water feelings. You're going to want some deep blues, and this is my best job at trying to describe what a room looks like for those listening. For those watching, you're doing much better because you're seeing the pictures.
Here's
but-
the deal. It's got blue carpet that looks like water. It's got a blue backsplash behind the headboard, which is a really cool headboard made out of like paneled siding.
Yeah, yeah.
It almost looks like it's a
it
nice
looks like
looking room.
beach
It looks
drift that's
relaxing.
turned into a whitewash. So Tom and Huck were probably up there whitewashing and washing, and they were scheming a pyramid scheme out of it and all that stuff. It does feel like very Caribbean and nautical just from what I've seen. And if you want to see these pictures again and more, of course, you can always go to the show notes page, disunplug.com. That's where you will find
bathroom.
everything that we have. The bathrooms look fantastic. I think it's going to be more on the level of like Hard Rock's bathroom, where it's not completely shut away, but
Oh, look, there's a
nice
divider.
split bathroom. Yeah, nice little divider. I think these rooms are going to be very comfortable just based on looking at the concept
like
Yeah,
art.
that looked really cool.
It's not going to take Cabana Bay over from being my favorite, but just looking at the room, what it's going to look like, I think this might end up coming in at my second. It agrees with me. I don't know about
very
this.
cool, and I
Not
don't mean
much
like
does,
cool.
so
I mean
that's
like
saying something.
Yeah.
chill. It looks chill. Like it's much cooler here than it is anywhere else in Orlando.
The only thing I don't like about it, judging from the concept art, is there are these awful pillows, which I'm sure they're not the pillows that are actually going to be in there, but
Sunset pillows.
They look like something that I would expect if you bought a pillow at Hollister, then maybe that's what you would find there. But that is the rooms in a.
They don't cater to pillows that size at Hollister.
Okay.
That was a fact. That was a
That's a fact.
yeah.
Okay.
No.
That's a fact. A pillow fact.
So yeah, what is the highlight of this resort? By far, it's going to be the pool. The pool is going to be 16,000 square feet. It's going to be a zero entry pool, which of course means that no one's allowed in. And there's
I don't
gonna be,
actually know what that means.
It means there's instead
There's
of having
a slight
steps.
gradual
Oh, like at the Hard Rock.
decline into, like in all of the
Yeah.
pools.
Oh, I didn't know they
you
were
don't
all
take
like that.
steps to get into the pool. It just slowly declines into the pool.
While
like
you
those.
can jump off the side of any edge, if you need a little bit extra help getting in and out, then
Yeah.
there is a ramp essentially that you walk.
Gotcha.
No steps. So thanks for ruining my joke by not knowing what a zero entry pool was.
Well, I thought it was a pool that nobody could get into without like lifeguard permission.
So you just
I thought it
assume
was-
that what he
Wait, stop a minute.
I didn't think you were
Is
making
that
a
an
joke.
honest thought that you had?
Yeah, zero entry pool. It sounds like nobody goes in unless there's a lifeguard on duty.
So you basically took
Zero
his
entry.
joke as fact.
No, that's what I thought it was before he made the joke. So then he made the joke, and I was like, people can go in when there's a lifeguard.
So, okay, here's the thing. Who's the one telling them they can't enter? Is it a lifeguard that's standing there, can't go in, no lifeguard on duty?
There's a fence, and when the lifeguard's not there, the fence is locked.
This conversation just got really fascinating for me.
It's zero entry, so I figured it meant that there was a gate around a pool that meant, like, you can't get in unless you go through the gate, like you have an entry. So I don't
I
know.
need to pick Rhino's brain more often to see what other kind of crazy
What the?
things.
Why
are in
would I
his
think
head.
zero entry means ramp that I can walk down? Wouldn't that be ramp pool?
It's because it's common common language.
You can email him at rhino@wdwinfo.com to pick his brain more about this. What else does the pool have? It has white sand beaches. It has a water slide in the.
Just so that we're clear, water slide means
I
there's
know
a
what a
slide
water
with
slide-
water
I'm
that
very
goes down
familiar with
it,
water slides.
and you sit on it, and it
But a
you
water slide
descend into
sounds
the
like what you're
pool.
doing. It sounds like I'm sliding down the water slide, like a slide, and I'm sliding down it. Zero entry to me says nobody goes in, nobody comes out. Like the beginning of Willy Wonka. That guy's talking about zero entry into that chocolate factory.
You just got told off by JL, which I am absolutely loving.
It doesn't sound like what it is. It's no onomatopoeia.
Wow.
Water slides.
Just when I thought I was out of touch.
Private cabanas.
I had a pool in my
Now,
house.
private cabanas, those are cabanas that people that only
Okay,
paid
now
for
you've
them
gone
are
too
allowed
far.
in.
Yeah, the public can use them, but after
Guys,
they
there's
pay
no zero
a
entry pools
fee.
in Massachusetts. Why would I know what a zero entry pool is?
And also fire pits. Now, fire pits are pits. They're specifically designed to
familiar with
That's
it.
when you get a rash on your armpit.
I'm familiar. I've worn deodorant.
That's cool that they have fire pits, by the way.
Yeah, fire pits, huh? You know? So also with the whole water aspect of it, there will be water taxi access for it, as well as still bus access.
A water taxi is a taxi that drives in the water.
Wow.
He's angry.
He's bitter. He's
joke.
extremely bitter right now that we just made fun of him. But
We love you, Rhino.
yeah,
And so does every viewer of the show, because you get countless comments about it every week.
you do. You have a fan club. Read about it on the boards.
I found it last night.
Good. I'm glad you finally found it. So that is what we know right now about Sapphire Falls. Like I said, it opens up officially on July 14th, 2016.
The year of the monkey.
The year of the monkey. As more comes out on that, we will definitely update it and let you know. And most importantly, remember you can book it right now. Specifically with Dreams Unlimited Travel, get in touch with one of our agents and we'll be able to help you out and get you in with the best rate that is possible. So that's going to do it for Sapphire Falls. Let's move on for our next big story. So Islands of Adventure. I think it gets some love from us every now and then.
Every
Kind of.
I'm familiar
every
with
chance we can give it.
Every chance we can give it. Well, it got love from TripAdvisor because, well, Islands of Adventure beat out all the other Central Florida theme parks to be considered the top theme park in the world in TripAdvisor's 2015
Rhino,
Traveler's
Rhino.
Choice
What the heck? Really?
Award.
I'm sorry, Rhino. That's when people advise you on what trips to take.
Because it sounds like what it is.
It's a website and an app.
What's a website?
And an app. There's an app for it.
I'm
You
sorry,
can
I ruined
download
Is
it.
Correct.
TripAdvisor like the number one app for advising on trips?
It all depends on. Some people will live by like only using Yelp for everything.
Yelp's terrible.
I use TripAdvisor just because, I started to use it a lot in Europe because they have a thing where you can actually download all of like the restaurants and activities to do in a city. So like on my phone, whenever I couldn't get a signal, I would still know everything
So
that
it
was
would
around.
Buzz, yeah, and let you know. Or whatever.
I could. They have an offline one,
Yeah.
so that way you can use it if you're in foreign countries and you don't have that connection.
That's cool.
anywhere. So that's why I like TripAdvisor, and I give back by writing comments and reviews on the places I go just to help better advise other people. So yeah, based on the fact that I use it, it's good.
I'm surprised you said worldwide too. I was thinking United States when I heard that they had won their award.
I'm just trusting what we wrote about it.
Oh, okay.
So also, it beat out Discovery Cove, which was honored in the top spot last year. The Walt Disney World parks came in a little bit lower. Magic Kingdom was 3. Hollywood Studios was 5. What the heck were they smoking?
Hollywood Studios should have been
Should
one
not
of
have
the
even
last
been on the
slot on that
list.
list. Should have
Yeah.
been.
Yeah.
It should have been went there.
Sorry, no longer trust TripAdvisor. TripAdvisor is wrong.
This award means nothing.
Well, I'm a little confused because like the Thea Awards and stuff like that, and then when you just take a look at revenue and people coming in. It's always Disney. It's always the Magic Kingdom to Disneyland, Epcot, and then maybe in the top 25, Universal will either get Universal or Islands of Adventure. So why is this so different?
I mean, before I finish that, I'll say number 6 then came in to be Universal Studios Florida. So here's my theory on it. It's not a sound theory. It might not be the correct one, but I think just the people who actually took the time to vote preferred it. I mean, that's just, it comes down to it. Like,
You think it's a demographic thing that more people in the age group or demographic that are likely to use TripAdvisor are more likely to go to Universal?
I would say that's a good thought on it. And then the other thought that I have regarding it is sometimes you have stuff like they make fun of it in like movies and TV shows. 2 candidates are going up against each other so hard that then everyone forgets to vote, and it's just the one person who comes in and votes for Ralph Wiggum to become class president, stuff like that. It could be a number of things. However,
that analogy you just said.
Because
I mean, I know the Simpsons reference you're making, but I don't understand what that had to do with what you just said.
I'm just saying maybe so many... Like,
oh, I just got it.
Like
Okay.
with Disney fans, they have 4 parks to choose from, where Universal fans, they have 2 to choose from. So
Right.
while people are deciding what Disney am I going to vote for, what Disney am I going to vote for,
People are like,
at
boom,
Universal,
this is it. Yeah.
they have it. And if they haven't been there since
Diagon Alley.
Diagon Alley opened up, before Diagon Alley opened up, it was Islands of Adventure all the way.
All the way.
That was always going to win it. I mean, and even like Universal, they track based on guests leaving the same way Disney does. They do their questionnaires, people are leaving, and guest satisfaction on it. And I know firsthand that Universal stresses on this hardcore. Like even I'm going to assume even more than Disney stresses on how to get their guest satisfaction numbers up. So it's not really that surprise to me that a Universal park came in the top spot, because they are striving for better guest service and keeping people happy there. Something that we've complained about on the Disney World show that Disney seems to be just starting to lack. And even though this is a Traveler's Choice Awards and it's not the experts in the fields and stuff, you still have to take this with a little bit of what it's worth.
I think that's big.
I think it is. So congratulations, Islands of Adventure. I will continue to visit you until you let me down in life.
Then I'll drop you like I'm not going to finish that.
I'm going to drop you like a cheap bad habit. So let's talk about our final buzz item, a very controversial item, and one that I don't want to go on too long about. Please. Because I know I've already had to hear Rhino say pretty much all his points, I believe, before we started the show. So that's Sharknado 3.
I can limit my points to just a few things.
Sharknado 3, Oh Hell No, premiered last night.
I watched it this
on
morning.
Sci-Fi Channel. And so
you just said again, oh hell no.
Oh hell no. So for people who don't know yet, and you've been living under a bubble, and you decided to just start watching or listening to us for the first time now, Sharknado is a semi-popular sci-fi film original made-for-TV series, not series, just films, that is based around the fact that weird weather patterns pop up where tornadoes suck up sharks.
Oh, exclusively sharks.
Exclusively
Not
sharks.
other fish.
There's no stingrays.
Yeah.
And
I saw what might have been an eel last
unleashes
night. I don't know.
havoc. And in the first Sharknado, it was set in Los Angeles, and then it moved on to New York City in Sharknado, the second one, and then it worked its way down to Washington, D.C., all the way down the East Coast to Orlando, and then back over to the side of the coast to Cape Canaveral in Sharknado 3, Oh Hell No. So the big deal and the reason why we're talking about it is because we knew that it was being filmed at Universal a couple months back. It was definitely thrown all out there that this was a Universal.
Oh, yeah.
It was featuring Universal in it, but the big surprise was I did not expect how much it was actually going to feature Universal in it. I mean, the Universal was almost used as like a separate character.
And it feels like they weren't filming for that long. How did they do that?
No,
that quick?
I think it was like 3 days, maybe.
And then the turnaround of that for the special effects and stuff is crazy.
It had to have been like February or March. February at the earliest. And because I'd already been here for a little while. Like, working here. Because I remember us talking about it. So, like, that's what? March, April. We'll say February. So, March, April, May, June.
That's 5 months.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Do math.
Okay, well,
I didn't want to skip one.
there's easy ways around that, though. First, the special effects are awful, and they could easily just use the same effects from the last movies and just make it work on this one, except for several effects, like a shark riding up and down the ride track on the Hollywood Rip Ride rocket, attempting to eat Chris Jericho.
Successfully
attempts to
Spoiler
eat
alert.
Three times a charm
I know,
on that
I
shark.
haven't seen it yet, guys.
I'm not going to ruin the end because there isn't really one.
How I know Chris Jericho dies.
Here's the big spoiler,
well, you
though.
know.
Poor
They
Y2J.
get these celebrity cameos specifically to kill them and make fun with it.
Yeah, there's a lot.
So,
Like in the movie This Is the End, they did a very similar thing.
It's the cameos are here. You don't expect the cameos to live. If they live, it's disappointing.
Okay.
And so, like Jerry Springer standing outside of Bruce over in the Jaws area, but it turns out that it's not the Bruce.
Wait, was Jerry
hanging that
Springer
we
the
all
guy who
know.
wanted to get his picture taken?
Yeah.
Oh, that was a highlight for me. That was the moment. I didn't realize that was Jerry Springer. He was so excited to. He stopped. Mind you, I'm going to set the scene here. The sharks are already falling from everywhere. People are running and screaming. This one gentleman is trying to stop this Amazon-like woman who's got boobs and guns. And so
As women always do.
yeah, always. And lots of like leather and lace and whatever. And she's going down the street. He's like, ma'am, I need a picture. Take my picture. And she's like, oh, fine. Like one does in an emergency situation. We stop for photos. And he goes to take his picture and you're like, uh-oh, that shark might be moving. And then it eats him. I thought, how did that shark replace Bruce? How did it get itself all tied up there? These are things I'm like, what's going on?
Please tell us how the sharks came from outer space, please.
Oh, again? That's later. That's later on. Later. Yeah, I got a couple of things I want to.
And here's the thing:
point out here
before we get too far into this, which, like I said, we're not going to go super long on this one because there's only so much that it has to deal with Universal. But for the record, I'm going to speak for myself, and then slightly Rhino. JL hasn't seen the movies yet, as she just said. Dustin, none of them at all.
Well, he showed me some clips.
I've only seen the third one.
Rhino's only watched the third one, and he only watched it for this. I've watched all the other ones. I understand going into this that it was a sci-fi movie that was a B movie. The people knew they were making it for sci-fi, so it had to be stupid, it had to be dumb, and then it ended up being a huge hit. And then everyone wanted to get involved in it and be that cameo and just be a part of the stupidity in it, because when do actors ever get to have fun with themselves and get to do dumb things like this? I understand it fully. I'm not an idiot. I totally get it. I'm on board. However, it was cool the first one. It was funny. The second one, it still worked. And then finally you get to this one, and now it's starting to get sad. It's starting to get repetitive and sad. That being said, it featured Universal so prominently the first time since Bring It On, In It to Win It. Another one of my favorites.
Whenever that show's on TV, they blur out the Universal stuff.
But
they try to make it pretend like it's somewhere else.
They lost the rights.
Oh, is that what happened?
No.
I think I think your point is good. I mean, I'm actually interested to watch this just because it takes place in Universal.
Yeah.
The same way I would watch something just because it takes place in Disney World.
And one thing I also want to point out in all this, I know a lot of people will probably disagree, but I thought they handled Universal so well in it that they didn't sell it like a commercial all the time. There were moments where, like Bo Derek and Tara Reid we got to go to the Cabana Bay Resort.
They were pushing those express passes real hard.
Oh yeah, they were pushing express passes
in the middle of a
VIP.
Sharknado.
Yeah, it was at the beginning, and she's
Here's
like, "These will get you to the
passes.
front of the line." Ahead of everybody else?
Did Chris Jericho have an express pass when he got eaten by the shark on Rip Ride Rocket?
On the Rip Ride Rocket.
Yeah, he's the Rip Ride Rocket attendant, and he's wearing some sleeves to cover up his tattoos.
Yeah, and but so I don't think they overly sold it. Unlike what I want to complain about, I used to love the Disney World episodes, and I think they did them much better in the 90s.
House meets
selling
the
it
mouse.
as a commercial than they do. Like I know you enjoy it, but whenever the middle did their episode and they walk up, we use magic bands now. They go around your wrist and they let you into anywhere you want to go.
And all
like
the
it was just
everything.
It was awful. That was literally just a half an hour commercial for everything.
We'll see.
And I don't feel like this was. It did have its moments where it sold it. It had moments that pissed me off, because if you're gonna talk about Cabana Bay, don't call it Cabana Bay Resort. Call it Cabana Bay Beach Resort. That's the name of the freaking hotel, and they don't even get it right in the movie. And for the most part, they didn't also set up a lot of the stuff at Universal looking like it was a commercial. I mean, they kept it very natural because, whenever you can only have time to do one scene and one take on it, and then you have to move on to get done with the movie because it's coming out in a couple months. I mean, it felt more fluid than some of these staged Disney ones where it takes one time to see and look in the background and you see everyone roped off and not allowed anywhere near this.
That was actually what I was thinking, like the opening shot where I was like, wow, there's a lot of people, and it's like broad middle of the day daylight. It's not like clearly they filmed this at dawn or they filmed it late or anything like that. It just looked like a regular day and people just going into the park. So, and it was like a overhead shot. So it was, and the main characters are right there. So
I hated it. Every part of it. Will I watch the fourth one whenever it comes out? Yes, because apparently I'm the spineless jellyfish that they're looking for whenever they're trying to attract viewers to this crap. But
I feel like the way to watch this would be like to watch the Riff Tracks version.
Yeah, or hanging out, having a party, sitting around with friends, drinking,
Watching
eating Doritos,
alien
doing
sharks
whatever.
descend from the sky and give birth to babies. Yeah.
So I have to disagree with you about it not being a commercial though, because you're thinking like as a commercial for Orlando, but this was a commercial for NBC Universal, like Comcast, because there was Xfinity posters everywhere in this. It was on the Sci-Fi Channel, which is owned by NBC, and then it was at a theme park owned by NBC. So every moment in this movie was branding for their company as a whole.
But he said it wasn't in your face.
We're not the average person. We already, I know that Xfinity is Comcast. You know that Xfinity. We all know that. We know what entails with it. The average Joe,
the reviews I read leading up to this was that
always call them the Joe somebodies or whatever.
Joe Blows.
Regardless,
he does.
The average American person sitting at home watching this doesn't know all this stuff. This is for Universal fans.
Well, it's funny because like the review I read was the number one complaint was that this one seemed like it was a giant advertisement versus the other ones. I mean, I agree. Like, I think the park was represented the way it looks. Like, I don't think there was any sort of like glamour to it at all. I don't really care about that stuff because I figure that's where you are. It's a low budget. Like, they got to pay for the movie somehow, so you got to throw your sponsor in there somewhere. You know, like it's always the Coke in the background. Drink Coke. But my favorite part was when he was on Rip Ride Rocket and the cart came loose and threw him and the shark through the roof of the Twister attraction, which we'll be talking about in the same episode. But he just lands in the attraction. Goes, ugh.
Like that didn't kill him.
From a roller coaster hundreds of feet away. He's somehow strapped in his ride vehicle, crashes through the roof, released from the ride vehicle. I don't know how, because they don't really show that. They just show the whole vehicle go through, but then it's just this one guy that's like, ah. And it's just this crazy, like, it's fun. I think it's one of those movies that it's a lot of fun if you've just gone on vacation there and you can be like, another one of my highlights was the disaster ride being featured on here because it was the disaster ride and they're on the tram and the tank comes down, they're like, oh, look at that, that's cool. And the water comes out, all the sharks are in the water, so she grabs a selfie stick, which are no longer allowed at Universal.
No, they're
which
still
now you
allowed.
can see why they're
That's Walt Disney World.
Okay, sorry, but she kills the shark with it and takes a photo of the inside of the shark.
All right.
Yeah. Clearly, you haven't been to Universal in a while because everyone who got turned away from having selfie sticks at Disney just goes to Universal now.
Wow.
And it's just like a parade of people with selfie sticks in the air. It's awful. It's terrible. Yeah, there were those moments. They climb in the freaking Universal globe that gets knocked off and ends up on top of the lighthouse outside of Islands of Adventure.
Great idea.
There's so much Universal in it. As a theme park fan, yes, it is commercialized. As a person looking at it from the onset, you don't know that much about Universal, but you're watching this. Could it maybe convince you to go do it?
Trip? No, yeah.
I don't think they're just necessarily selling it, but at the same time, they could implant that in the back of your head. Regardless, I think that people who like seeing their theme parks in their favorite media, this is something that you should take the time to watch. Just after, make sure to go and rate it on Rotten Tomatoes and IMDb about how awful it is and be honest. And that's going to do it for the buzz. This week, we are going to skip the mid-show shuffle. One, because I don't want Rhino to do his dance. I hate that dance. And
no
second,
shimmies today.
Second, we need to just jump right into our awesome segment. Our spotlight on the universe, which this week is our Twister. ... Ride It Out Universal Hall of Fame. Sorry, I just got emotional.
Recently heavily featured in the sci-fi hit movie Sharknado.
Yes, absolutely. You know, that is a place where you can go and see part of Twister in it. So, Twister, Ride It Out. We've talked about this so much on the show before. It's just one of those rides that is always relevant. Jenny Lynn Knopp even did an article about it.
I sure did.
About it. You just did one
last
recently
week, yes.
about families, which will be an upcoming segment. So we won't get that much into the family aspect of it on this one, since we will have that coming up later. But Twister is a very important attraction that's near and dear to all of our hearts. I think.
Is this sarcastic? Right? Are you being sarcastic?
No.
I feel that way about the movie. I don't know about the attraction.
I was just going to say, I like the movie a lot. I know you don't like it, but I enjoy watching that movie a lot.
It's based on a movie?
Helen Hunt, Bill Pullman.
Bill Pullman?
Paxton.
I always do that. I'm so sorry.
Bill Pullman
one
is
the
Independence
president
Day.
of our country. One is a tornado, storm chaser. Easily confusable.
Again, I apologize for Rhino today. He's off his game just a little bit, but then again, he started his morning with Sharknado 3, so how can we really judge him on this one? But Twister Ride It Out is a walk-through attraction, I guess is the easiest way to put it, that is based in New York at Universal Studios, Florida, and it is based off of the 1996 hit film, disaster film, Twister.
Starring Philip Seymour Hoffman.
Starring Philip Seymour Hoffman, Cameron Fry from Ferris Bueller's Day Off.
Carrie Loews. Of Princess Bride fame.
The bug-eyed person that's driving him around, who you've seen in a million other movies before, but you never learned his name. And then Bill Pullman, of course, and
Bill Pullman, yep,
and Helen Mirren.
The wife, Bill Pullman. Paxton. Bill Paxton's wife in that movie is also like the lead of that show.
Still Standing.
With
Still
Fred
Standing.
Fred Flintstone, yeah.
Well, see, I know him as the Squire from A Knight's Tale.
I know him from that movie where they all strip down in London.
He's also...
What's it called?
Full Monty.
Full Monty, yeah.
He's also the king in... the original king in Game of Thrones.
True. He's Robert Baratheon.
Oh.
I forgot about that. He wasn't on there very long.
Nope.
Oops, sorry, spoiler.
Oh,
it's been 5 freaking years.
And it's called a Game of Thrones because they're trying to take over his throne.
That's the game? Great.
So, Twister. It is that walk-through attraction that is essentially they're trying to simulate how awful a tornado could actually be if it runs through a town, while at the same time showing off their special effects that they can do and how they can make all this stuff for a movie. So it's kind of broken down into several
Stages.
fashions. So first, you're walking through the queue, and it's not a heavily themed queue. This isn't Gringotts, so don't expect this whenever you're walking into it.
It's basically a queue with TV screens up above where you can watch.
It's not even that. When you first start off, it's like one of the random things that hold all the balls that go up into the tornado, and a Wakita sign. And then my favorite is there's a billboard with a weather person on the side, and the weather person that's in that was one of my managers whenever I first started at Universal.
They didn't even get talent. They didn't even get talent.
No, but she's a lovely lady. I love her.
Oh, man.
And then finally, whenever you enter the showroom, it's the first one you go into. It starts off and you have video screens. And then from there, you move into the next room that's a little more themed, because it's themed like Aunt Meg's house in the movie. Whenever,
Steak
we
and
all know
eggs,
the
baby.
Aunt Meg house. And
That part of the movie always makes me so hungry.
I actually really like that room.
I do too.
Cool.
I agree.
So good.
This
Kind
is
of eerie and creepy.
Oh yeah, it's a heavily themed room, and then from there, then you move into the main showroom where they simulated Twister and kind of try to recreate the drive-in scene from the movie. But before we get to really going through each part and kind of getting a little more in depth with it, we're going to show just a brief highlight reel. It's only 3 minutes long. For those of you listening to it, you'll be able to watch it on our show notes page. I'll try to get it up somehow. And then, because this one's not going to go on YouTube, we'll have a full tribute to Twister later on. But those of you watching now, you're going to see it. It's our little brief overview of what Twister likes. So check it out.
I'm Bill Paxton. I play a storm chaser determined to confront that mystery by getting as close as possible to a raging twister.
And I'm Helen Hunt. I can tell you that when we agreed to make Twister, we had no idea what we'd signed up for. Because awesome as these storms are, they're also unpredictable. Appearing from nowhere, turning on you in a second, leaving no place to hide.
Scientists call tornadoes severe storms, but that doesn't begin to describe what they can be like. But what it took to put that experience on the screen. Twister was an extreme filmmaking experience from start to finish. We were staging things that had never been tried. It was exciting and dangerous.
Okay, well, that was your little look at Twister Ride It Out. For those of you who haven't experienced it before, I hope it didn't give too much of it away. If I didn't mention it at the start of the segment, the whole reason why we decided to jump ahead and do Twister Ride It Out right now is because there is a very, very good chance that it will not be around with us much longer. We talked about it before, but the closer and closer it gets, the more it's looking like it's going to be gone, maybe even within the next month or two, and hopefully it'll survive to Halloween Horror Nights. Hopefully it survives a little bit on after, so people have a chance to actually get here and ride it that are just starting to discover the news now, but experience it. Sorry, not ride it. That was a bad way to say it. I'm sorry, Bill Pullman.
Well, my favorite actor, Bill Pullman.
Sorry, I screw up and say ride once, but you just call him the wrong name. But so Twister was obviously it was a pretty big movie whenever it first came out, and it seemed good at the time. It seemed really good at the time, and I think for some of us, especially the three guys in the room, we have a lot of nostalgia with it because I know it was in like the string of movies with like Independence Day that it was some of the first PG-13 movies that my parents were taking me to in theaters. So this was right up there. JL, did you have an emotional attachment to Twister growing up?
No, but I did do Independence Day.
Yeah.
I'd like to talk about that movie, but
I just watched it for Independence Day.
we will not go quietly into the night. Sorry.
Well, we will do our Independence Day show. Probably never, since unless
Not at Universal.
No, you
so-
don't know. There's two movies coming out one next summer, one the following summer they could be huge, and maybe Universal. That's the next thing to go there. Who knows?
Yeah, no, that would be
thinking.
great if it ever comes out eventually. But so Twister
I saw a teaser.
wasn't an opening attraction with opening day, obviously, because whenever the park opened up, Twister wasn't out yet. But it did replace Ghostbusters, the Ghostbusters show, which
Made me sad.
well, it was time to go for that, and it was apparently Twister's time to come in. And as Bill Paxton describes during some of the pre-shows and stuff, that Twister was a challenge to make because right whenever they started filming, that's whenever tornadoes started hitting all around the filming locations and actually hit Wakita. And he explains this, as well as Helen Hunt do, all throughout the pre-shows. And we've described it before. The script for this attraction is just so awful.
It's so awkward.
It's unbearable.
Mm-hmm.
It's to the point that whoever wrote the script should have been fired, because it's almost at the point that they were just ad-libbing.
Well, it's because the two of them hated each other, so they didn't want to be in the same
They had to film
place at the
separately.
same time, so they had to write it for two separate things too, I guess.
Not even that, just the hyperboles that go along in the show, where scientists classify tornadoes as a severe storm. Like, no crap. I'm not a moron. I understand that it's like a hurricane. It's like all this other stuff.
Well,
It is intense.
some other people from other places might not
Know what a tornado
Yes,
is?
well, maybe I don't know.
I know what
Scientists call the F5 tornado the finger of God.
that's from the movie itself.
That's a really good impression, actually.
One of my favorite bits in the pre-show is when Bill Paxton, that we just saw in that video, so if you're listening, go check it out. Bill Pullman starts talking, and then Helen Hunt starts and he does this look, like, I guess they told him
the sideways look?
Yeah, we're gonna look at it, and then it like crossfades, and it just looks like he's pondering about her and what's crossfading behind him.
Yeah, and as we said, they hated each other after filming this movie together, but they had to continue on working, especially for something like this. So I'm sure they were contractually obligated to do so many things after it. This was one of them, and so they had to compromise by just literally doing, in the first pre-show, having two different screens side by side, and so they were cued. You'll do your line, and then you'll look to the side, and that's because they're going to start talking, but you only have to look for so long, because then, as Dustin said, crossfade.
Let me ask you
Beautiful
this question.
filmmaking.
Let me ask you this question. This came. I mean, these are two rides that are, in the general area, at least for the movies, are same time frame of Twister and The Mummy, right? And you think you've got the same creative team at Universal. How do they come up with The Mummy? But I'm specifically referring to like the pre-show aspects of it, where even though you can say it's whatever you want about it. It's light and fun, and Brendan Fraser's having a good time with it. You can tell he wants to be there. Versus this is like
death
really
and
serious.
darkness, and yeah.
I will answer that in the only way that I know how to, and that's to say that Twister opened up in March of 1989 or 89. Wow, March of 1998. It was supposed to open up in March 1998, but then there was a string of tornadoes that actually hit Central Florida whenever they were going to open it, and so they thought that it would be
It's insensitive.
They thought it would be insensitive to open it up during all that happening, so they delayed it until May, and then it was finally open. But then Revenge of the Mummy didn't open up until 2005. So they had plenty of time to learn from their previous mistakes, and then also get better. And they had a lot of shift in what Universal Creative was doing in that time period, and Disney Imagineers coming over, and they went through a lot. So that obviously would be my take on the explanation of why it got so much better between those two, just having new talent. But yeah, so you go out of the first pre-show where they clearly hate each other. You move into the second one, into Aunt Meg's house. And as we said, this is actually a really cool part of it. It's very dark in there, hard to take pictures. So whenever we do our full video tribute, we'll try to get some of those little touches in as much as we can. But it does a great job of simulating a wrecked house, has a couple hidden nods and gestures along in there that we won't spoil for you, but just keep your eyes out to everything as you're walking around. You might see some little funniness all along in there, but then
a car.
Like a car. And then they play the other video in there where they explain again that tornadoes are still very powerful. If you didn't get it the first time around, my guess is they just didn't want people to wait outside even longer, so they decided to do 2 pre-shows before getting to the main show. But then you go into that main show, and you're on 3 different levels. The first one, you could get wet. Some of the other ones, you're safe from it. And
no. The third one you can get wet on, too.
You can?
I had water dumped on my head once because, I don't know if it was malfunctioning or something, but it was literally the end of the show, and boom, somebody had taken a bucket and dumped it on my head.
What's the arrangement there in the audience? Is it kind of like the water tank at the backlot tour?
Yeah,
you're standing.
It's like that. Yeah,
3 staggered standing rows as you're going across, and those are even built up on a platform because there's a little surprise at the end, but I'm not going to spoil that for anyone who hasn't done it yet. But yeah, so it's a standing.
2 weeks.
What's that?
You've got 2 weeks.
You got some time. Not much. But yeah, you're standing up for the whole thing, and there's water effects, especially ones that come from behind you, so it can kind of catch you off guard. I've never had to the point that I've gotten soaked on it.
I was angry.
Yeah, that must have been a malfunction. Because
he's still bitter. Look at him over there.
I'd never been on the ride and ever gotten that wet before, and it was not
Attraction.
warned.
It was experience.
You didn't say it when Dustin said ride. And
I don't even remember.
Anyway, so be careful about being the last one on the end of the row, because I think it was like a runoff or something like that.
So you're standing there, and it's dark. It's very dark in there. And like I said before, it's the drive-in scene a little bit altered, adding in a little bit extra stuff because it would just be boring if it was an open drive-through and it comes
And
through.
they're not playing The Shining.
They're not playing The Shining. I just don't think they could get those rights, or it would have been a little bit too expensive to get.
Jack Nicholson.
But then they actually do, as you saw from the video, if you watched it, they have the ability to actually create a tornado that's indoors. And I've heard at one point in time that the tornado is actually always running. It's like just an effect that it's constantly going through the day, and then
you just can't see it.
Yeah, they
have to add the smoke to
that
it.
whirlpool, and then they add the whirl tunnel or whatever, and then they add the smoke to it. I've never worked at the ride or
so
anything.
You could walk out there and just be like, it'd be quiet, and just the stuff's blowing up around you if you walk near.
I have no idea, because of course they're going to have extra fans all around to really make it seem worse than it is. So that it could absolutely be true. I guess we should just ask Shane at some point, since he did work there at one point in time. Feel dumb for not doing that before, but yeah, it gets dark, it's lightning, and then that tornado kicks up, and then the signs start moving and shaking. The truck starts pulling out and hits a fire hydrant.
The tree splits in half.
In half.
Cows fly across the room.
Oh, the cows.
We got cows.
Oh, you beat me to
That's
it.
another cow. I think that's the same cow.
And the good news is then, too, they get Dorothy up then. They get Dorothy in the air.
Mm-hmm.
It sails across.
Without her little things, though.
I've got to say, watching the show, I always stand there and watch it, and I'm like, good God. I feel so bad if anyone's ever waited more than 20 or 30 minutes for this. Like, this is just it's a shame, to say the least. But then watching it back on the video, it actually kind of impressed me. I was like, oh, it's kind of better on the video than it's in real life.
Because
And
you have like
I
cool
wasn't
angles
expecting
and stuff like that in the video. Like,
But
it's not really how you see it. That's the kind of interesting thing about this ride is that when you're watching it, it's so your eyes are so much farther pulled back than that camera is.
They're also adjusted. You don't have the it doesn't have the strobe effect that it does in the video.
Yeah, exactly.
it's kind of, I mean, I guess that's just a
So
whole
you can-
thought on modern technology and actual movie making itself.
Yeah. So which is I think is very interesting.
Yeah.
Like because it kind of like actually ties into that original theme of the ride too.
I never even thought about that as we were starting this. This is movie making in motion. It's interesting. But that's the ride. Then you dump out into a gift shop, and you can buy lots of cow souvenirs and Sharknado souvenirs.
My favorite
and-
souvenir we got here as a child was the cup you could get. You push the button, and it mixes the chocolate milk for you. It was a Twister cup. My brother got it. It was always so cool. They still sell it, but now it's cow patterned. It was cooler when it was a Twister one.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
Okay, I was like, I don't know. Cyclone
Thank you.
cup? I don't know what they're called.
Thank you.
You're
So,
welcome.
so that's the ride itself. We've talked about all the various things that could possibly be going into it. Just on the Sharknado theme, Sharknado is not going into it. It's pretty much set in stone at this point that it's probably going to be a Jimmy Fallon type attraction. But while this is here, and while we still have chances to do it, and while it's fresh in our minds, how do we feel about this one entering the Hall of Fame? Should it go into the Hall of Fame? And I'm going to start with Jenny Lynn.
I am torn about this, truly. I have a sentimental attachment to Twister because it was the first Universal attraction that I ever did.
Oh, wow.
However, this attraction is a joke.
She went in for laughs.
Basically, it's kind of, it's cool because it does have a bit of a creep factor to it, an eerie feeling to it. But at the same time, I feel like this attraction takes itself too seriously. You can tell that they're trying to go for a very serious, heavy tone, and then you go into this special
makes you feel
effects
so
show,
awkward, too.
and it's actually comical in some parts, and
The plastic cow.
basically the cow is the climax of comedy here. I don't know. I want to say yes, just because it has that classic feel. It's almost like Carousel of Progress at the Magic Kingdom in some ways, but
Wow.
And now you just offended everyone who loves Walt Disney out there
Sorry.
and his ideals of the future, but never mind.
okay, maybe not Carousel of Progress.
Definitely not.
But there's something that, it feels like, I don't know why. Maybe it's just because it was the first ride I went on. It feels like what we will one day look back on as classic Universal. So I want to say yes, but at the same time, this attraction's so terrible. And I don't feel like I can say yes. I'm going with no.
Okay. Dustin.
All right. For me, this attraction is a prime example of novelty. They had one idea when they made it, that we are going to create an actual Twister in the room. That was really cool to show off that technology when the attraction first opened. And after you've done it once and you've seen it, you really don't want to do it again. And now that technology just doesn't seem as cool as some other attraction technology that's out there. And for me, its novelty has worn off. and it's no longer relevant. The movie's not relevant, and the technology's not relevant. So I got to go with no. I'm sorry.
Oh, that's a very good point. And the part of the Hall of Fame for me, whenever I would go into voting for a Hall of Fame attraction, is even if the technology doesn't remain state of the art all the time, does the experience you get with it remain state of the art? Like, the old classic dark rides at Disney. A lot of those would make it into a Disney Hall of Fame. Most of them, simple technology, didn't take much. It's just, it can transcend time. The tornado in Twister has not withstood the test of time
It's not
because
timeless.
Is this the only park that has it too?
yeah. I mean, I could flush poop down the toilet and get almost more enjoyment than I get from watching that tornado happening.
Does the tornado go a
You
different
just
way
said
if they
that.
made it in Australia? Does it
No.
spin?
Riddles?
Also, the technology. I see what you're saying about dark rides and stuff like that. The technology is not the attraction. The technology is to support the story.
Yeah.
Whereas here, the technology is what you're coming in to look at. That's the whole point. I want to see stuff blow up. I want to see the twister that they create. And when that is the attraction itself,
Yeah.
then it's more likely to not stand the test of time.
I would more or less appreciate Twister if it was a quick walkthrough experience where you don't have the videos,
An
you don't have
exhibit.
the pre-shows. An exhibit, yes. It doesn't do anything like the big surprise at the end. It's just, nice lighted pathways that you can walk through. So you stop in. If you want to see the tornado happening, then you can stay and hang out for a couple minutes and be like, cool. And then, they're going to do the effects and then they're going to reset and they're going to do it again. But to ever make people wait for this thing and then to be so disappointed. And I do agree that it's one of these rides that's so bad it's good. This is one of the best definitions of so bad it's good. However, no, it's you don't put in so bad it's good into a Hall of Fame. That just doesn't happen. I love Helen Hunt and I love Bill Paxton fighting each other. It's classic comedy gold, but it's not Hall of Fame
I
worthy.
loved Bill Paxton in Spaceballs. He was great.
Yeah, he was.
Oh,
Lone Star.
Lone Star.
Yeah.
I had another point that I wanted to make before Rhino gets to say anything.
One more point.
This Twister would also be really good as a section of disaster. Instead of its own
Yeah.
attraction,
I
it would be
agree with
much
that.
better.
Like the thing before you get on the
Yeah.
tram.
I agree.
That's
with
a
that.
really good thought. I mean, it's not going to matter
It's
because
not gonna
disaster's
happen.
probably going away anyways too. So
But then again, that's that exhibit feel to it.
Yeah.
More of it than attraction. How old were you when were you like a kid, JL, or were you an adult when you did this?
I was an adult. I didn't ride.
was she
I
a
was-
kid?
Yeah, 'cause-
when I experienced it, was
Yeah.
I a kid? Is what he's asking.
Because
No, I was an adult. It actually was in 2011, and I had snuck into the park, and that was one of the only things still open.
I see. So I'm the only one in this room who did it as a child when it first opened. And I still remember what it was like to get into that room and stand in that row and watch this scene happen. And I also remember the queue, which I do still think is cool, the part with the car and the house and everything like that. And I was like I said before on the show, I was a kid who I think Universal was my favorite theme park as a kid because I didn't like roller coasters and stuff like that. I liked things that told stories, and especially somebody who loves movies so much, I love being in a movie. And
that definitely does this,
and so I try to think it's I think maybe it should be in there because it's been here for so long, and yes, I think it's been irrelevant for a while for sure, but I still have that thrilling experience that I remember the first time I did this, where I was never disappointed. The first couple of times I even did it because we'd come down yearly, and I didn't remember it to the T, but I don't know. So for me, I think having read it when it wrote it or experienced it when it first opened, then I don't know.
You're allowed to say yes.
I'm
allowed to say it.
trying to think though, because I do agree with everything you guys have said about it right now. As an adult, having experienced all these theme parks, having this being our daily life now, versus the child that came in and saw this, and I think it'll always be with me in my memory of Universal. You say Universal, and it is one of the attractions I'll think of, and for that reason alone, I think it belongs in the Hall of Fame.
So you're saying yes?
Yeah.
Okay. No, that's fine. As with all of these voting processes, we are not the ones deciding. We're letting everyone else who follows us and is on the boards decide. So,
but we're giving you something to think about.
We're giving you stuff to think about here, and I personally, I go on and vote too because I want to have my way with it. And
I tried.
Everyone else
couldn't figure it out.
Everyone else, well, you have to register for a boards account.
I
first,
did. I even left a message on my fan club board last night.
Oh, that was.
That I told them this is the first message. Somebody help me change my profile picture.
Well, we'll help you.
Okay.
We'll get you sorted out. So that'll be up to you, and there will be a link to where you can vote in the show notes, but it will be on the podcast section of the board. I decided to go away from the Universal section and go back to the podcast part, so you'll be able to see it in there a little bit later on, unless you're listening to this in the next couple days or weeks or months, and you missed out. You let the boat sail past you, and it's gone. But before we go, on that note, I want to talk about our last Hall of Fame one. We did all 4 Seuss attractions, the ones that matter, at least. We didn't do the stories you'll hear, sadly. You wanted to. Mm-hmm. Especially with that new Dr. Seuss book coming out.
What?
Yeah, there's a new one. Look it up, BuzzFeed. But we put together High in the Sky, Seuss Trolley Train Ride, Cat in the Hat, Carousel, and One Fish, Two Fish, Red Fish, Blue Fish. Sorry. And we asked you guys to vote on them. And
who made the cut?
Well, who made the cut? High in the Sky, Seuss Trolley Train Ride did not make it in. It was...
You are not getting a rose.
They are not getting a rose. The Cat in the Hat made it in. Carousel had the worst punishing defeat of not making it in, but did not get unanimously voted out of it. Otherwise, we would have had to give it a special award. And then One Fish, Two Fish, Red Fish, Blue Fish did also not make it into it. So
it's Cat in the Hat.
Out of that, just Cat in the Hat. It turns out that I could have just put one up and said you can only vote for one to get in, and it would have worked out. But Cat in the Hat has made it in, so now they joined Jurassic Park River Adventure in the Hall of Fame. So definitely get out there, vote for Twister. Got to add something from the studios in there. And we still do have other big shows coming up, including the E.T. Hall of Fame. We're still going to do that Beetlejuice one, I promise, as well as a Terminator one. We're going to get them all in.
I got a good feeling for E.T. I think he's going to be doing okay.
Oh, yeah.
He better.
Yeah. That's a shoe-in. I will throw my shoe-in right now on it. But before we go, I just want to remind everyone, disunplug.com again. Find our show notes as well as links to all the other shows that we have done, as well as the other shows in our podcast network, including The Trip with Jenny Lynn Knopp and Teresa Eccles, as well as our Disney World show and the audio-only Disneyland show. And then there you'll find our contact information, how to get to our Facebook page, Twitter page, Instagram, all those good things that we're constantly by daily posting, as long as I don't forget and screw everything up, which sometimes it does happen. But check out all those places. There you'll find our email too, so that way you can send us an email if you want, uopodcast@disunplug.com. You can still leave us voicemails. I don't know if we've gotten any, but there's always that chance that someone did. You can find that under disunplugged/contact. And with that, that's going to do it for this episode of the Dis Unplugged Universal Edition. We will be back next week with an email show. But until then, Sharknado is universal. Oh, hell no.